It is the quote, "A ship is safest when it is in port." But that is not what ships are built for. So I would suggest it's not about safety in life. It's about getting out there on the rough sea and see what you can reach. And it's not about feeling somewhere in your comfort zone safe. All these cool people out there, authentic people, happy people, they all have some kind of adventure. They get out of their safe space.
That's probably my favorite.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. All right, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the 1% Podcast. I'm your host, Vin End.
And I'm Shane.
And today we're joined by one of my new friends, Stefan. What's up, my man? Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for the invitation. Greetings from Germany right now.
I love it. We are thrilled to have you here. For those of you that might have listened to one of the previous episodes where we interviewed Pia Isabella, that is actually Stefan's wife. So you guys are in for another phenomenal episode. And I'm so excited to jump in on this with you, Stefan. Can you please tell people a little bit more about who you are, what you're up to, and what you're really excited about right now?
Okay, I'm Stefan, 53 years young, a medical doctor, worked as a physician in psychiatry, quit the job, went into coaching and training business, built up some companies. We host the largest European festival for personal growth with 15,000 people annually in Cologne, so many business successes. But since 4 years, I'm absolutely deeply into psychedelics because I think this is the next step in the coaching world, and I'm hosting psychedelic retreats worldwide with my wife Pia Isabella. So that was short enough, was it?
Yeah, but you could go longer, man. This is your story. Go for it. Tell them who you are, man.
Just wanted to make a short introduction because I've been working in psychology so many years. Really, I was beginning my professional career as a doctor, as a medical student, and treating all these patients with depressions, with anxiety, with whatever, PTSD, blah 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 blah. And then I understood from one point that it's not enough to give people some pills and to tell them they should change their lives. So I asked myself, what is the next step? So it's personal growth, right? So it's the coaching business. We need to teach people how they should build up families, communities, how to communicate, how to do business, how to do things, all this how-to stuff. So this is what I was into for about 20 plus years. And I was quite successful with it. I developed many programs, coaching programs, personal training, health programs, blah, blah, you name it. I also had a TV show in Germany for 1.5 years. And I thought this was the coolest stuff on earth to tell people how to live a better life. The problem is, it was four years ago, a personal crisis hit me and I couldn't understand it. You mean I'm a quite resilient guy, so I had my ups and downs in life, as many of us. Had a divorce, which was okay, not feeling good. Always these struggles in life. I think we all have them. And then there was a real crisis where I could not just get over myself. I felt hurt. I felt terrible for months, and I asked myself, what is happening with me? I know all that coaching stuff. I did therapy myself for many years. I'm into it. I'm the one people are going to and I tell them what to do in their personal crisis. So why the hell can't I get out of it? And then a friend of mine introduced me to a substance which is called MDMA. Some of you might have heard of it, which was developed and it's in treatment for PTSD. And she said, okay, this is something you could use because there's something deep inside of you which is not solved. There's a struggle. There are some demons inside of you which are not solved yet, and you should go there, make a therapy. We did some research. And I said, okay, there seem to be some sources. They are quite serious. Okay, let's try that. Give it a try. And I traveled into a country where that was legal. It's always a legal issue with these psychedelic substances. And I went to a psychedelic coach, and we did a great day. We had a day which, it was like 8 hours of tripping with MDMA and LSD. You know, LSD, the forbidden substance. by the way, this is a quite good combination, these two substances. And it absolutely blew me away. This day, I traveled deeply inside of myself. I was 4 years. I had a fight. I had a conflict. Blah blah. So which I knew I had before. I know I remember all that. But what was really different this time? Suddenly, I felt the emotions. It was not just a memory of it. I really could feel the conflict. And then think about, feel it for 2 minutes, conflict gone. The next conflict, few months later, feel it, be in the conflict gone. So this was like my whole life happened to me once again, and I solved all these conflicts along the way. And the difference between a cognitive therapy, where you understand things and where you can make them, okay, put it here, put it there, so you sort it out. This is a totally different way of experiencing it because you feel, and you go through your feelings. And that felt like 5 years of psychotherapy or coaching in maybe 30 minutes. And so the months after that, I was just flying through lives. I felt 25 years younger. I had much more drive, much more compassion. I was happy all day. And I understood, okay, there's something totally different working here behind everything we know about psychology, about coaching. And so I went deeply into this psychedelic stuff, and it totally blew me away because many people know that and use that for decades. And the public doesn't know about the potential of these substances. And this is a crime. They were forbidden at the late 60s in the US. And then the whole world said, okay, if the US says it's bad, then we should be okay with that. And so for decades there was no science on it. For decades there was no psychotherapy. So the whole generation of psychotherapists and psychiatrists were trained without these substances. And since some years they have a renaissance, so we start doing research again with them. And the results are amazing. So people get rid of their depressions, people get rid of their PTSD, people get rid of addictions, they get a better understanding of who they are, what they want in lives, and so on. And so when I discovered that whole world, I was absolutely fascinated because I had been doing this whole coaching and psychotherapy stuff for almost 30 years altogether, if I put my medical career into it. And I had no idea that these substances are not bad drugs which make you addicted or make you weak. In fact, it's just the opposite. They make you strong. They make you understand who you truly are. They make you feel connected to yourself, to your emotions, to your past, to the future, to your higher self. So you see, when I start talking, I'm quite enthusiastic about it. So it's time for me to stop, for you to ask questions.
I can truly tell that you're very passionate about this. And this is why I think when your wife came on a few weeks ago, we really had a great time here. Since then, and I'm glad you brought this one specific point up, and I wanted to get, an MD's opinion on this. I've watched the Matthew Perry documentary recently, and to summarize this up, he was dealing with addiction for half of his life, right? For alcohol, for drugs, for opiates, and then he switched over to ketamine. And it wasn't done properly. He was getting it done by his assistant, and that eventually caused an overdose and a whole bunch of other things. But I want your point, because his was addiction that he's been battling his whole life. And this was a temporary solution to numb the pain. And I'm not saying that psychotics is the way, right? Because psychotics is different than obviously what ketamine is. But is this a temporary numbness? I understand the overall opinion is to visualize a higher self, to essentially get relief for this. But is it causing a new addiction by going to this? I feel like, especially in the States, you'll actually see these ketamine centers open up all over the place, obviously in appropriate settings with doctors that are giving dosages out to treat PTSD, to treat mental illness. And it's quick sessions that they just feel relieved. But then guess what? They have to come back in a month from now, and do it again, and do it again, and do it again. That specific is not dealing with the situation. I personally feel it's numbing you so you can feel good about how you're going on with life. I'm curious on, is this completely different than what you're experiencing?
So it's for especially it's totally different. The way it works is totally different than numbing you. It's making you see. Okay, so let me just compare two kinds of drugs. One
What?
kind of
Yeah,
drug is numbing you, is putting you away from yourself. This is alcohol, this is cocaine, this is
right.
heroin, this is all that stuff that seems to help you for a short while to get rid of your pain. Okay, if you have a problem, drink alcohol, and then problem goes away. Imagine somebody shy. Okay, he's maybe socially a bit insecure, and he sees a attractive lady and he needs to talk to her. So what he needs is drink alcohol, then the shyness goes away and he goes there, hey, I'm Stefan, who are you? Okay, so what's the problem? Nobody would suggest him to drink alcohol in order to get rid of the shyness. The question is, why is he shy? Why is he socially insecure? Okay, so these are the questions. This is what all these the regular substances do, the antipsychotics or the antidepressants or whatever, antidepressants especially. They you get rid of a symptom by these drugs for a very short period of time, but it doesn't solve the problem beneath it. And the problem beneath it is, in most cases, is some kind of a trauma that happened sometime in your life and made you feel socially insecure. So many people grow up in difficult families, difficult social surroundings, and then you have the genetic disposure, whatever. So you end up shy. So what could be helpful could be a way to understand your life and your personality at a deeper level. If you go back to your trauma, if you understand what happens or what happened, and change the way you view yourself. And this is happening under these, I call them medicines. It's not drugs, because what they do is they put you on a higher level. They see you, they help you just kind of get out of your ego, get out of your tunnel vision, get out of your problem focus, and tell you who you really are. And sometimes these are hurtful insights, but in the most time they are very, very helpful. So what happens is you zoom out of your life and see yourself from an outside perspective, or you zoom into your emotions and you feel your emotions. So the problem is with many addictions, people, they just try to avoid some pain, put something in the bag. They don't want to feel it, don't want to see it. And these drugs help you in a short notice. So what happens with psychedelics? They help you see the bigger picture. They help you understand the root cause of the problem. And in the best way, if it is done properly, and this is the point with the ketamine clinics, if it is done properly, if there's somebody with you, preparing you, coaching you through the process, it will help you. But, and this is a big but, if these I call them journeys, if they are not done correctly, you just have to lay down on a chair or whatever, then they IV you some ketamine, and you fly somewhere, you have an interesting feeling, you come back, and then you are absolutely confused. When I did ketamine the first time, I was blown away, because if ketamine is used by somebody who never had a psychedelic experience before, it can be a quite wild ride. It can be very disturbing. And so what I suggest now is to look at the quality of these clinics. Are these people properly prepared? How is the integration? How is the sharing afterwards? So all these points, they are very important. Overall, you can say there are two very important points. It's the right set, and the right setting, which means, is your inner preparation ready for this kind of journey? And is the surrounding supporting your experience? Because if you have a bad trip, or if you do it just for recreational reasons, or having some LSD or mushrooms or wherever at a party, the probability is quite high that you will have a bad experience, because you don't know how to process what you experience. So but it's the same if you go in the outside and see, okay, somebody's some moving parts or some colors or funny, listen to the music, dancing for hours. This is something totally different than go into an inner journey with eyefolds on, with calming music, with supporting people around you, and then you have this inward journey, and this is what I'm talking about. And especially ketamine is quite tricky. Ketamine has is legal, so that's why many people do it. But on the other hand, it's very, very powerful, and if you do this wrong, yeah, it could backfire. Yeah, is that backfire? Is that right? Can you say
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, that works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've got a question because I think you bring up a really good point. Every industry has its benefits and its downsides, right? Like I think coaching is phenomenal, but I think the downside of coaching is that there's so many shitty coaches out there and they scam people out of money, and it's very hard to figure out who's real and who's good. And then when you're talking about this, I think one of the interesting things that you're bringing up is like having a bad trip, not having a proper experience. Can you go a little bit more into like what really some of the negative side effects are if you're in a bad space of having a bad trip, and how to
Absolutely.
avoid that? And most importantly, from what I understand about you and the events you host, what should you look for in knowing if the event or the safe is a safe and properly professionally guided space to ensure that you don't have these drawbacks that you're about to describe to us?
Absolutely. And this is a very important point you're saying, because I'm in the coaching business myself. So I still am. And I know I can tell people you can do anything in life. No, that's not true. Not everybody is capable of doing everything in life. Or, okay, we do this imitation of successful people, do this, and that order, and everything will work out. We know from experience it will not work for everybody. So, what is the difference is you have to find your own, your personal way of being your true self. And
Mhm.
so this is what happens in these psychedelic journeys. And concerning the bad trip, I have to be more specific. Sorry for that. Just fasting is a bad trip. There are good bad trips and bad trips. Okay, it's very, very important, because okay, let's think of a child. If a child gets angry, the child it gets angry. You see it. If a child gets sad, it cries. So what happens if we have these emotions? The emotions, they run through us, and we kind of live them out. So this is what we do as childs. The point is, after a child was angry, the anger is gone. After a child was sad, the sadness is gone. And in our adult lives, this system doesn't work anymore, because it's not appropriate to be angry at your job or to be sad at your job. I'm crying, have a sad experience, blah, 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 because people would think you're crazy. So what we do is we stuff that away. It's somewhere in our system. It's stored somewhere inside. And so people can function their whole lives with all these stored emotions. And sometimes you think about, why don't we feel alive? Why aren't we enthusiastic anymore? Why do we feel depressed or whatever? So what we do is we hide from our emotions. And so this is very important. If you have a bad emotion inside of you stored somewhere, it makes no sense to just behave nicely, try to be happy or whatever. In almost every case, you need to feel that negative emotion first. You need to face your demons. You need to go through the bad experience if the bad experience has been very serious in your life. And this is the same with trauma. There is no way of avoiding your trauma when you had a deep trauma, because okay, you can go on living and functioning, working in your everyday life, but there will be some storage of your trauma inside your life everywhere. It will show up everywhere. And what we experience in our sessions is that you can approach your trauma, relive the trauma in a protected way, and go through the trauma and get rid of the trauma energy. And this is what is freeing people. But if you have this traumatic experience, or this remembrance in this memory, in an uncontrolled environment, let's say at a party or with your friends being with you or whatever, it can be re-traumatizing. So this is a bad trip most people try to avoid. But the thing is, a bad trip is a good trip when you use it correctly. If you go deep into the trauma, if you go deep into that emotion, if you look at the situation again, because most people try to just, okay, I have headaches, take some headache pills, or if I don't want to eat healthy, give me some pills. So we always try to avoid all this real deep work. But the thing is, it's not work. When we think of work, we think of this is something with a lot of effort. This is something complicated. This is no. In most cases, it's just feeling, getting into that situation again, getting into it internally again, feeling the emotion, going through the emotion, and then it's good. It's done. It's like with a child. If you go through your negative emotion, the negative emotion is gone. And this is not something mentally, this is something energetically. So that happens to you. So most people feel relieved afterwards because they went through these traumas, so-called traumas. And now concerning what is a bad trip, the bad trip is either a correct good bad trip because you suddenly you can feel your trauma again. You understand why you're working so hard, why you're addicted, why you are an asshole in your family, whatever, okay, because okay, I'm behaving like my father because my father did, yeah, okay, because I was treated like that in my school time. So then it's a good bad trip. So this is some kind of a self-reflection, an emotional self-reflection. The bad trip is when you yeah, when nobody prepares you what can happen, and then you go get out of it and you just say, okay, I don't want this weird feeling anymore.
I'm very curious because society, well, at least the society that I know, as far as the US society, we've been wired a certain way, right? That drugs are bad and stay away from it and things like that. And I think that purposely led me to do shrooms in my youth, right? Because of that actual thing to actually try it out. And I've had some great experiences. And that's what I was sharing with your wife beforehand, is literally after taking it, feeling that 10 pounds were lifted off my shoulder. But I didn't dive deep into anything that you're talking about. And I'm very curious, especially for first timers that are going into this. And I imagine this is very, very common. Is there things, traumas that are so bad that you don't recommend that they try psychedelics? Like PTSD or molestation, child molestation, or something that they shouldn't visit? I'm just very curious in your thoughts on that.
I absolutely understand what you say, because in regular therapy, people sometimes have to avoid these traumas, because
Mm,
if you go into this trauma energy, they open up again and they can influence your life badly. So
right.
therefore, in many cases, it's just about stability in your life. Yeah,
Mm,
get your stuff done, work, function properly. There are bad emotions you should not dive into.
mm,
On the other hand, there is so just let me be very honest. Also, most trauma therapies or trauma or psychotherapy in general. So when does it stop? It stops regularly when people get into very sad, very deep emotions, and then the patient say or the client say, "Okay, no, I don't want to go further." But this is the point you should go further. And of
mm,
course, if you are unprepared and you feel unsafe and you have to go into that kind of trauma, it feels terrible and it can re-traumatize you.
mm,
So also, psychotherapy can re-traumatize you. Even meditation can re-traumatize you. So if you get into a certain space when you suddenly feel your trauma or you're trying to fleeing from your whole life, it can worsen everything yeah, that you experience. On the other hand, we desperately need trauma therapy, because I would say maybe 80 or 90% of depressions, anxiety, addiction, behavioral problems, etc., are um, are from a trauma, or from many kinds of traumas. And I've spoken to many people who are doing the hardest kind of PTSD therapy with soldiers, with people from war zones. They experience terrible things. Whole lives are destroyed by trauma. And there is no such thing as a assisted psychedelic therapy that is able to help you get rid of the trauma as fast and as deeply as psychedelics. It's there are many very very famous research done, and scientists are working on that. It is proven, and everybody can Google it. There's a lot of it out there. That, for example, PTSD is cured by an MDMA therapy, sometimes in a single or two-time session. And so, to me, it's the other way around to think. Why do we give people pills which they have to take daily for
Right.
months and for years for just getting rid of that, to be in that picture, getting rid of that shyness? Yeah, they
Mm.
need the alcohol in order to get rid of their social insecurity. Why not dig deeper and go to the root cause of the problem? And this is what happens with trauma. You feel kind of protected facing your trauma,
Mm.
which means you can face it, and which means you can go into that trauma and you can try to understand and work around the trauma, and you can solve the trauma and you can see where the trauma led you to in life. And so
Mm.
it's, if you go to that root cause of things, to that root cause of your trauma, the first things, everything else in life develops very smoothly and easily. And then you understand where you're right now, where it comes from. And that is why that is the reason why so many people get rid of, okay, I don't need alcohol anymore, I don't need to eat as much
Wow.
anymore, I don't need all that stress anymore, I don't need to prove myself and be so successful and work 22 hours a day. And so if you get rid of the root cause, then you get rid of the rest.
I think that the promises of, or not the promises, the advantages of doing this and overcoming true trauma or addiction is amazing. I'm curious because if I were to take this as somebody who is essentially new to this,
Mhm.
and it got to a point where I needed to get out of this, now that this is monitored, is there a way that I can quickly get out of this? What is the
Yes, you can
process?
take some benzodiazepines like Valium or something. Yes, there is a way out of it, but we do not suggest to do it in a session, because as soon as it gets weird, it often gets interesting, and then we get to some root cause. Okay, you
And
need to
that's how you
go
handle
into
it,
it.
though,
Yeah, we
right?
can
You
handle it, and
talk
of
me
course,
through
if you
this.
have a coach alongside you, which tells you, okay, what is the feeling, what is the
Right,
what is coming to your mind.
right,
You see, it's the same principle in life. If
100%.
there's a demon, you either face it or you run away.
Right,
And in most cases, facing the demon, go over your fears,
right,
lets you grow. And this is an internal growth. And your first shroom experience was a positive one. So which means you are basically healthy and you were able to enjoy that kind of new experience. So what happens in your, let me be a bit scientific, okay? So what is our mind? Why are you Shane? Why are you Vin? Why am I Stefan? We have this thing called default mode network, which is a system of together operating brain regions. So this whole thing is called default mode networks. So the default mode networks make you be you. Okay. So, but if you worry about something, if you have problems with your partner, your job, your life, whatever, it is you who's worrying about it. And everybody knows, have a good night's sleep, have some fun, do some sports, just leave it alone and go back. And after a while, the problem is not so huge anymore. Okay? So you don't take yourself so serious in removing yourself from the problem. And this is what happens under these substances. These substances, they regulate your default mode network down. And so let's say Vin has a problem, Shane has a problem, Stefan has a problem. So if Stefan has a problem, I'm worrying about the problem all the time, all the time. But what happens if Stefan is not as important as he thinks he is? So
mm,
suddenly the problem disappears and you see things from a different perspective.
mm,
And this is an emotional thing, I can tell you. We all know there are situations when we worry a lot, and in other situations we don't worry at all because we just feel safe, we feel reassured, whatever. So the exact same problem can be treated in two totally different ways. And these psychedelics, they help you to step away from the problem, to not take yourself so seriously, and therefore give you the power to overcome the problem.
Mm.
So I find it all really fascinating. I absolutely love this. You know, I'm very curious. How do you feel that this all stacks up, you know, when you look at things like EMDR, NLP, right? Because a lot of those things are aimed at being able to provide the same thing, right? The power of EMDR is completely taking people out of the emotional experience so they could discuss their trauma. NLP is about shifting the experience of their emotions and the ways that they perceive things, so much so that it could distort it to a way that the emotion vanishes, right? Like there are people that are able to come out of 20 to 40 years of a deep phobia in one NLP session. And I'm just curious, how does this stack up? Do you believe one or the other? Do you believe it's a hybrid? Do you think that different things for different people? Like, I'm just curious about that specific view of like, when is the best use case for this, or does everybody need this?
So definitely there's different things for different people, and I would not suggest to do it if you don't want to do it, because everybody has his own way of healing, his own way of processing of, but I would suggest not being afraid of it and to consider it as a serious way of going in there. I've been doing all these things as well. So NLP and the thing is, there's a very interesting point. So when you learn to meditate, you can do 10 years of meditation, 20 years of meditation practice, 30 years of meditation practice. And then they showed on MRT scans, when you are in that deep meditative state and you've trained it for decades, you are able to reach a psychedelic-like space.
Wow.
The thing is, why should you try to do it for several decades, practicing, when you can have this experience within an hour? There's no reason for that. It's no reason to go the long way to have a revelation and understand something about you, which takes you 20 years of practice. And so it was a funny story. I had a client a few months back in our retreats, and she was a yoga teacher. And she was very stressed out, stressed. So I told her, okay, you are anything but yoga. You are not yoga because you are much too nervous. You are much too, I don't know what you mean. I'm doing everything correctly. Then we had the trip. And after that, she was deeply chilled, deeply relaxed, and said, okay, now you are yoga. Now you're yoga. And sometimes this is what we have to experience. We have to have this experience of love, of safety, of being our true self. And then we can adapt to it in the life afterwards. And then I'm definitely a fan of all these techniques of NLP, of coaching, of whatever we do, of understanding what we do. But sometimes we have to have first this impression, this feeling of, okay, how does it feel to be chilled? So last weekend we had an entrepreneur at our retreat. Funny story. He's okay, very busy doing this, busy doing that, very successful, doing coaching business, has some fitness studios, sports studios, has a little son which he takes care of, has a dog, going for a dog a long time, doing sports all the time. But you see his good business, good money, everything successful from the outside. But if you talk to him, you get the impression he's quite stressed out. And he says, "Okay, no, that's why I am. That's who I am. I just need to do things." Okay. And after that, he was in the seminar room, and we just relaxed, laying down for 2 or 3 hours, listening to the music, staring at the ceiling, and just being and feeling. And this was the first time, he is in the middle of his 30s, he said, the first time in my life that I took time for me, for myself, and just being. And this is something we experience all the time. People are used to run and to rush and to achieve. This is all dopamine. Dopamine feels good. I love dopamine myself. Yeah? chasing something, chasing goals, whatever. The thing is, what we absolutely miss in our Western lives is the serotonin. Serotonin, which makes you feel just relaxed, be confident, being happy, needing nothing. Dopamine is I need this and that in order to be successful, or I need that to make me chase some dream. Serotonin tells you you need nothing. Just be yourself. Just be. And this is all what these Eastern philosophers tell us, they teach us. They say, no, breathe in, breathe out, meditate, just be. But if you don't have an idea of what that feels like, you think they are all crazy.
I love that, man. It's so fascinating to always hear, you and your wife's point of view on this, because I do find it very interesting. So as amazing as this conversation has been, I'm very curious because I got a few last questions for you before we end off today. So questions being this: one, what is the best piece of advice you've ever received from a mentor, a friend, anyone, doesn't matter, could be life or business? We just want a good piece of advice for our listeners.
Well, this is difficult to, yeah. So I have so many advices.
Only one.
I think the best one is from Paulo Coelho. It is the quote: "A ship is safest when it is in port, but that is not what ships are built for." So I would suggest it's not about safety in life. It's about getting out there on the rough sea and see what you can reach. And it's not about feeling somewhere in your comfort zone safe. All these cool people out there, authentic people, happy people, they all have some kind of adventure. They get out of their safe space.
That's probably my favorite quote.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. That was really, really good. Okay, it's going on the quote board for me.
Stefan, I have a question, because we were kind of talking about this a few weeks ago with Isabella. These retreats that you do, they are mainly designed for entrepreneurs and business owners, correct?
We have many for entrepreneurs and business owners, because okay, now it's important from the we have also retreats for everybody. Sure. So it is called reality-upgrade.com. You can see everything there. The thing is, what we focus on is leaders change the world. So of course we have all these bottom-up experiences because people need that, and we talk about it. I think society changes the more people have the psychedelic experience, the more pressure will come from people to change the laws. But what is very important to us is, if leaders, if business owners, entrepreneurs, if they have a psychedelic experience, it often changes their view of life, and they are more focused, they are more clear, they are more social, they feel a better emotional connections, they are better leaders, etc., etc., and that trickles down into their organizations. And this is why we do it with business leaders, preferably with them, because we know the effects are huge. So if we all are, everybody I think knows that to hire somebody, or if you get hired to do a job, and people often feel stressed out at their work. They feel they just have to bring numbers, they have to properly work and function in some way. And when they quit their job, often they do it because of the leaders. Okay, I don't like my boss. My boss is in blah blah blah. Yeah. So if we change the bosses, or if bosses change themselves, if they have a better connection to themselves and to others, I think the whole world changes, and this is what we are aiming at.
That's what I want. That's I'm on my way then. I'm flying out to this next one here. I'm very curious on how this works and how this is shifted towards that. But it still seems like it kind of ties all in together, actually facing your demons, your traumas, your addictions. And, whether you are a leader or whatever it is that you're doing as an entrepreneur, I think this can help you overall as a human being. And obviously, I think the business and entrepreneurship is more just secondary. So I'm a big advocate for this. I really am. I mentioned that the last time as well. I can't wait. I'm going to bring a +1.
All right. Love it. So Shane is already enrolled, and there you have it. For any of you listeners, you could go with Shane. He's bringing a +1. So
You can't go with
Stefan.
me. I've already decided my +1, but I'll see you there.
Yeah. All right. You'll hang out with Shane. You guys can lay next to each other and stare at the ceiling. It'll be a phenomenal time.
We will. No, by the way, it sounds so funny. Just stare at the ceiling. This is one of the most beautiful moments in life you can experience. Being together with a group of like-minded people, having this experience together in a safe environment at a magical place somewhere in the jungle in Mexico or the retreat center in the Caribbean or wherever. Yeah, you have wonderful music, you have all these visual effects on the wall. You're laying down and you just are together in a common space with other people. You feel the connection, you feel that everything is fine as it is, and have this feeling for hours. And I would so much love to have every human being on this planet. I would so much like to have everybody has had this experience at least once in their lifetime. It can change your whole life.
I'd really like to just say my quick story on this. And this was my very first time that I did shrooms. And it was with a group of my friends. And we were out on a hike. And we went off trail. And we found this little pond of water. And we all decided to take it. And we decided to kind of just separate, but still be around each other. And we enjoyed the nature. Everything was very vibrant. Your internal thoughts just became your thoughts. It wasn't about communicating with each other, but you were still feeling the presence of them there. So you felt safe and nurtured and loved. And after it was done, that's what it was. I felt almost rejuvenated. I felt that there was nothing that could bother me. And that's what I meant by the 10 pounds lifted. I just felt truly blessed and amazing. And I tell that story all the time.
And this is what you experience. Well, so in nature is also an absolutely great experience. So you were lucky that you have had these friends and that you had the trust to let go and to be in that emotional space. And what is great is that the feeling of connection with nature, with being of you get a totally different approach to life when you've had this experience once.
Yeah, I love it, man. And by the way, I actually it's gonna sound funny when I say it, I spend time staring at the ceiling pretty often. I did it the other day. I have this cool thing behind me in my office that it like puts the waves of light on the ceiling. I just laid back in my chair and I was staring at it with my daughter, and I was like, this is the absolute perfect moment. It, like in the week, it was the absolute best moment. I think if you guys don't take time to just have presence and invite on to your life, you're doing it wrong regardless. So
please Vin, I don't want to diminish that experience. I know I love that doing that myself, and of course it's important for many people. Many could never imagine doing this. I sometimes give the advice: just sit 2 hours on your sofa and do nothing. What do you mean doing nothing? I cannot just do nothing because I have to do this. No, do nothing. Okay, but my mind starts like, okay, I need to do this and that. Okay, let's just chatter off your mind. Let it go. So what is coming up after 1 hour or after 2 hours? And this is what you're truly feeling and truly experiencing. It's not just that workload.
Yeah, exactly. It's very difficult for people to create presence. That's the biggest problem most people have is the ability to just be and not let your being be interrupted by the shit that's always going to be there. Like a big part of what I work on with a lot of clients is presence. I'll be like, why is it an emergency to answer the text? Will the text disappear if you don't answer it for 30 minutes to an hour? Like, is it going to go away? No, the problem's still going to be there. And here's the other side of it. Actually, I say, if you have a blackout time and somebody texts you in that hour, there's one of two things that'll happen. Either the problem will still be there at the end of the hour, or somebody will figure it out and then you don't have to deal with it. But either way, the problem will be there and then the problem will be resolved, whether you do it right now or you do it in an hour. So I love what you're doing, man. I have zero zero problems with it. I think more people need to experience it.
So
We're also
what is interesting? So sorry for interrupting you, Vin. Because what you say, I think it's two sides which work absolutely perfectly together. You know, because you explain it, we can understand it, and we can do it. And the other approach of the psychedelic approach is experience, and then from experience do it. So I don't care which way works. So I just say this: if you have all these different parts of a recipe or of a buffet, why not use them all and taste them all and see what is best for you?
Yeah, why not? I love it, man. Well, listen, we got like 2 minutes left, so I want to make sure that we get these last questions out for you, because I want to make sure people have this. So one is, what is your version of a 1% life? Because that's the name of the podcast, where it's not about being a billionaire, but it's about how you're trying to achieve greatly in a specific area or a specific thing. And then the final question, which I'll just lump the two in to make sure we hit it, is how can people get connected with you? How can they take part in your events? How can people learn more about you? So go ahead, man.
My version of a 1% life, I would say, really, okay. I need to have a story. Can I just tell a short story about that? Okay,
Go for it.
Just imagine you have many you have many Shanes and Vins in your apartment. So they all, the Vins and the Shanes, they are absolutely identical to you, identical selves. Okay, and what kind of jobs or what kind of things to do would you delegate to these other Vins and Shanes? Okay, there's so many things we have to do. Go out with the dog, do our business, answering emails, talking to clients, whatever. And there are specific things you would never want to delegate because you love them so much. And this is my understanding of a 1% life, because just focusing on what you really truly love, and not what you tell yourself, I need to love that because I have to do it. So I think if we get to a point where we, with AI or whatever in the future, where we just can focus on this 1% of things that are most precious to us, and if we truly live these things, this would be my perfect version of a 1% life. So just reduce, and be your true self and do accordingly what you have to do. And if people want to reach us, it's either not iconic leadership. This was it's psychedelic-leadership.com, psychedelic-leadership.com, or reality-upgrade.com. This is a German website. You have to go /en, so for the English version, reality-upgrade.com/en, or psychedelic-leadership.com, and then you can ask us anything. And yeah, I hope I see
Perfect, man.
some people there and meet some people there.
Well, it'll all be in the notes, so don't worry about it. If you all didn't get it from the way he was explaining it, you could just go click it down below. But Stefan, dude, I'm very happy to call you a friend. I love what you're doing. I love the difference you and your wife are making. Don't ever stop being as awesome as you are. Thank you for your time here today. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to interview you and learn from you. For all of our listeners, please go check out everything he's doing, especially if you're interested. Tell him we sent you. No, I'm just kidding. That doesn't matter. Just go do it because you think it would be helpful.
With that, of course, you just tell. Yeah, please.
But with that being said, everybody, thank you so much for listening to another episode of the 1% Podcast. Please like, share, follow, subscribe, comment. Let us know what you thought of the episode and our friend over here. And stay tuned for another. As always, I'm your host, Vin, and
I'm Shane.
And that was Stefan. See you, everybody.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot, guys. Thank you.